Do we want to start with that? Okay, so we are beginning.
Correct. We
Yeah.
are
Okay.
recording.
So
Yep.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Health meeting on September 11th at 6:01 p.m. We'll have a roll call in. Stephanie Granger, present. Michelle,
Present.
Megan,
Present.
Sue,
Present.
and at the moment Joanne is not present. Our first agenda item is open forum. Do we have anybody here with questions for open forum?
I do not see any questions at this time.
Okay, so seeing no one for open forum, we can go ahead to the approval of the minutes from August 14th. I thought they looked great. Did anybody have any corrections they noted?
I had no changes whatsoever.
I wasn't there.
And neither was Megan. You can still note changes. Okay, wait, I just got a text from Joanne. She's joining in now, so that's good. Okay, so with no changes noted, do we have somebody who'd like to make a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make a motion. Do we need to wait for
Yeah,
Joanne
do we want to
to
wait for
chime
Joanne?
in?
I mean,
Yeah.
technically, people have said before that it's fine for those who were not in attendance still to vote to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Is that correct, right?
That is correct.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion made to accept the minutes of August 14th. Is there a second? I can second that. So all in favor of accepting these minutes, Stephanie Granger, aye. Michelle,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye, even though I wasn't there.
it's okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you. And that passes with the 4 members who are present. I'd like to give Joanna a moment to join us before we discuss the next issue on the agenda, and we're a little ahead. Ray, would you like to, should we take the discussion of new business out of order?
Sure, we can do that. And I know Joanne did just send a text that she is logging on. So certainly new business. So I just wanted to bring to your attention, we do have a new intern who has just started with our department. Her name is Saboine Lefreniere, and she is an undergrad at UMass Lowell in health informatics, public health informatics and technology. So we're really excited to see it till the end of December, working closely with Brittany Nash, our community health and wellness coordinator. She's created data analysis. She's interested in things like food insecurity, so she's going to help us with some of our projects here and work with some of our stakeholder partners. So we're excited to have her here. She has to do about 200 hours. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. The Massachusetts Department of Health has put out what's called a Community Health Equity Initiative Survey. And so that's an opportunity for Massachusetts residents to provide their feedback with the launch of the statewide survey to improve community health. It's also a part of the Community Health Equity Initiative. So we do have that up on our website. We put it up frequently on our Facebook page, and there's a link there to the survey if any resident is interested in participating. The Westford Health Department newsletter. So this year we do not have in our funding to send that out. It's about $10,000 now to send the newsletter out to each resident, and that includes even bringing it down to a postcard size. So it's actually more money at this point to do it by mail. So we're printing and we're pushing that out all through the community as best we can. A lot of folks are used to seeing that in their mailbox, especially with the flu clinic information and all those programs that we provide. So I did put that in your packet just so you can see that. That's on our website. We do push it out on all social media. And like I said, we have put it out in our vestibule, senior center, library, things like that. Try to get it out around town. And that is new business.
Thanks, Ray. And just for the minutes, I'd like to note that Michelle or Joanne Belanger joined the meeting at 6:05 p.m. Joanne, you want to say aye? You're here, or being here, present now?
I am here, present.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ray. Okay, I know that some people did want to join for the discussion that's scheduled for 6:15. So since we're still ahead, why don't we go ahead, maybe talk about the events and programs?
Sure, absolutely. So the first event and program we just wanted to make sure you were all aware of is our employee and resident flu clinic. Those are listed in your newsletter, in your packet. Those dates that we're providing 2 longer evening flu clinics this year to the public and also to employees. So those are going to take place in October. Gail has been working hard to get all the new updates with what's called the color software. And that's the software the Department of Public Health requires that we use in order to have folks register for our clinic. We've utilizing our administrative assistant this year to learn all the background of the color information to help with the clinic triage MRC volunteers that are trying to not only vaccinate but register folks that are coming in. So that's an update there. I know you like to know when those flu clinics are taking place each fall. We are watching closely also with the COVID vaccine. We're expected to see that by the end of September. And at this point, health departments can order vaccine under the age of 19. So we did put in a request for 50. Again, that's for any child or resident under the age of 19.
Sorry, Ray, could you repeat? I am not hearing very well. Is everybody else hearing her fine, or it's just quiet on my end?
Sure, no problem. So I just wanted to mention that the COVID vaccine we're hoping to see that by the end of September is what we're being told. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We're given an opportunity to put in an order for COVID vaccine that will be under the age of 19. And so here at our department, we put in for a minimum of 50 to see, again, not sure what the vaccine looks like, what that opportunity is going to be for the community, or again, the cost. So, and certainly not sure if folks will be, lined up to get that. So at this point, that's what we're saying. We're kind of waiting for more information on the COVID vaccine. WestFest is September 24th. That is a festival that the schools put on and partner with the Westford Health Department. We typically put out 2 or 3 tables, including a separate table with the MRC with blood pressures, vaccines, all kinds of community health education on all kinds of topics about giveaways, things like that. But there's generally between 2,000 and 3,000 people that attend it. There's quite a few food trucks, so we're already on site for food inspections. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Community health stakeholder meeting is set for September 27th. And so we're inviting all of our stakeholders, our faith-based organizations, school nurses, school health, fire, police, all kinds of stakeholders. We have a little bit over 29 stakeholders who are inviting to ask their opinion on what they consider to be community health needs here in the community, and help us put together our community health assessment. So we'll be reviewing all the data that was already current out and what's left to be done. So we do have a consulting firm, DME Strategies, that was running not only the invitation, but we're running those 4 meetings. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And the last item is just a reminder to the public. I believe we have 2 appointments left for the on-site mobile vision clinic. That's both for employees and residents. And so that takes place September 13th. That will provide free eye care and eyeglasses at a discount rate. If any resident or employee is interested in signing up, our information is on our website and also social media feeds.
Thank you, Ray. So the meeting on the 27th is open to the public
It is not at this time. It'll be open to all the stakeholders. So we've looked at all of the committees here in the community, DEI. We've looked at select board, board of health, and those invitations go out this week to all of the stakeholders. And I can certainly
Okay.
share that list if you'd like to see it.
Maybe I'm confusing that with something else that you sent.
That's okay. I mean, there are a lot of residents.
The CHA meeting?
So the community health assessment meeting, this is the stakeholder meeting. There are
That is
quite
the
a
same
few.
meeting. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
there are quite a few residents that sit on town committees that are being invited to give their input. So, yeah, as far as residents,
okay, but that is for okay, great, thank you.
sure.
Did anybody have any questions about anything that Ray has discussed? Thanks, Ray. Okay, I think it's probably close enough now that we can go ahead and begin our 6:15 agenda item, the discussion on the draft zoning bylaw amendment, firearm business section 6.6 firearm businesses. So I think at our joint meeting with the select board and planning board, we had discussed that we'd like to use a little time today to draft a letter to express our opinion on the bylaw. Is that correct?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So let me see. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts on that, or if we wanted to work from a draft.
Well, just one thing, I mean, this bylaw, it's really, we gave input, and the letter that came out from Jeffrey Morissette, I thought was very good, the last thing that Ray sent us. So I'm just a little confused because what kind of, like, what are you thinking? The letter that you sent was very detailed, Stephanie, and I was, very impressed with that. But I think the bottom line is we've got to get this bylaw passed, right?
I
And
agree.
So I think we got to be careful about having too much discussion about the, about firearm business. I think it was getting off track, that meeting that we were at. There was a lot of discussion about the right to bear arms and things like that, which had nothing to do with the bylaws at all, or this bylaw. So I don't want to have a discussion about, people's right to bear arms, et cetera, because that has nothing to do with the bylaw. I think we've already given our input at this point in time, so I'm not quite sure what we are all supposed to do now in terms of having a discussion. I guess that's where I'm confused about, because it's not our bylaw. So
Exactly, right.
so
I think
yeah.
based on Jeff's summary, I mean, clearly we need a bylaw, otherwise we have no power whatsoever. So it's very important that we are able to limit the numbers of stores in town and also enforce distancing from schools and other, children related activities. So I think we have to compromise. I'd like to say no to any stores, but I don't think we have that ability.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to pull up. I had started something. Joanne, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, because I apologize because I'm seeing the letter that Ray put up and it's dated today.
Yeah, it was just sent.
I did not get that. I mean, I may have gotten it. I did not read it if it was just sent. So if somebody can summarize it for me.
Basically, Jeff said they put out like 3 possible scenarios for making changes to the proposed bylaw.
Yeah, I thought the letter was very thorough, and I think what he he basically was doing was summarizing the discussions that went on at that meeting on the 21st.
Mm.
And I appreciated this letter more than the bylaw, quite honestly. Like this was easier for me to follow than like even the explanation behind everything. But to me, the bottom line is that we have to get a bylaw in place. So it's not about, let's just say no. And I think that is, right now, there's nothing in place, and we're opening ourselves up to a load of problems if we don't get a bylaw in place. And I think that's really what he's saying in this letter. And I think if I read it correctly too, on tomorrow night, I think the select board is meeting and talking about it. And then on the 18th, the planning board is going to have a public hearing again. So, I mean, certainly after we meet, we can maybe give some more feedback about what we think, but I feel like we've already given our feelings about it at that last meeting, but I could be wrong.
Well, I feel, I was, in meetings basically all day and ran home here, so I have not read it. Full disclosure, I apologize. I just looked, I do have it. I think, and I think that came out at the meeting that we were at. I think that's really important if anybody is here, there's a few people here listening, and I think that's something that I think maybe we need to make sure is well understood, but that just simply saying no is probably the worst case scenario, because it leaves us open to no protections. Obviously we'd love to say no, but that's not going to be a helpful response. So I'm going to, just kind of take a minute and not now and read it. And hopefully it does contain some of the scenarios that we talked about. Does the 4 include the 2 that are already here, or is it 4 + 2 = 6, that kind of thing. Hopefully he has explained all of that. But I do think that, in reading what Stephanie has put together and all the research that she has done, I think it still is worth and is important that our voice is heard, that we reiterate the issues of gun violence as a public health issue, that we reiterate the feelings that that she has captured in that letter. I fully support it. Did find a few typos.
Sorry, it was.
So I still think it's worth it for us to send that, to make sure that our viewpoint is well understood. And again, I think at the end too, Stephanie, you said, we understand that something has to come of this. We have to have a vote. And we understand that, but just to make sure that we get the least amount, not the most amount, that it could possibly come from this bylaw, that we have to vote on. There has to be something passed. And maybe it's not what we want, but it's going to be better than a free-for-all.
Right. I've heard from a couple residents in town, and even addressing the letter from Jeff Morissette, that the statistics regarding the number of licenses is double counting. So there may be that many licenses, there aren't that many shops. Many of the shops. So when they're saying that there were this many, licenses to perform services, a gunsmith, licenses to sell ammunition, and licenses to sell rent firearms, things like that, those 3 may have been in one shop, and most likely were. So it's not that Littleton had 200 gun shops, they had 80 something. And so that if that's influencing anybody in terms of the number they see other communities having, licenses don't equal shops.
But it equals activities within the shops.
Correct.
And that was a question
But
that
that's not the way it's presented in the document.
okay. But again, that was the question that I had regarding the, you know, the two sportsmen's clubs that are already licensed as one thing. But depending on how this plays out, they could add and add and add to their function or to their
Right.
activities on site. And that was the piece that I was concerned with, to say, oh, well, we can have 4 gunsmiths and we can have 4 ammunition places and we can have 4 of this and 4 of that. Like, it creates more by pretending it's not. It's kind of, you know, an illusion.
Right. So I think, so I guess, I mean, question is there, I feel like it would be beneficial for the board to write a letter expressing our stance. So that that's clear. While we made it fairly clear, perhaps at the meeting, we didn't speak with one voice, making, you know, stating what our position was on the bylaw. Yet, we have not yet done that. And so I guess, you know, what are the biggest concerns with the bylaw as currently addressed? And do we have, you know, positions that we'd like to say, you know, we would support a bylaw, but we believe it should contain X, or there needs to be Y or Z.
I don't know. I'd be, like Sue said, I think we need to be careful.
Okay.
Because if we put down something that says we, you know, we would like to see 2, no more than 4, if it comes out to be 6, say,
Right.
you know, people are going to go, well, no, because we're going to go with what the Board of Health says and they want 4. And you know, I think you say in the letter, this, you know, the strictest bylaw with the fewest permits permissible or possible or something like that.
Mhm.
I think that's probably a good way to say it, without a hard number, maybe?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I would just hate to have somebody use us as an excuse to say no, and then we're in trouble. If it doesn't pass, something has to pass. Something has to pass.
Right, and as Jeff had mentioned, if we go too strict, then we put ourselves up for, you know, having it denied and saying, you know, that we're being ridiculous. So I think it's a compromise situation.
Okay. So
But
how do we
I think as a board, I think it's what you said is that we know that there needs to be a bylaw in place, and collectively, we would like to see the least amount of permits as possible and the buffer zone. You know, I mean, I don't think we need to go into any major, you know, articles to defend it or anything like that. More of that's our stance, right? And again, at the end of the day, we don't. It's not our bylaw.
Right.
That's what we have to be cognizant of. It is not our bylaw.
So the
Oh, right. It, you know, we're not sponsoring it,
That's what I mean.
but you know, as a board, and you know, again, we're going to be able to vote as individual residents, but as a board, you know, we have, or because it's a public health issue, we all acknowledge that. I think we have an obligation to have some kind of a voice, even though we're not going to put forth the bylaw. I would love to see what the final,
which we unfortunately, I mean, hopefully
what is
they
it gonna,
can
what is it
do
gonna
that
be?
in
You
the
know, I
next
think,
couple days, but
yeah, it would be much easier to have to put together a response if we knew what we were responding to. You know what I mean? But I guess really in the end, something has to pass.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
So, okay, so then what, if anything, do we want to say at this point? Are we just wanting to pass a motion saying that we would like to express that we stand behind, that we recognize, I don't know.
That we're well aware that we need to get a bylaw passed in this town, but we just want to make sure that that the opinion of, public health matters. But I get so nervous about everybody talking about gun control, and this is not what this is about. And I was very uncomfortable at that meeting with people who kept getting up to the mic talking about their right to bear arms. That has nothing to do with this discussion. I don't, and I guess I was a little bit, I don't know why in some ways people weren't stopped from talking. They should have been only allowed to speak if they were talking about the bylaw, not about other issues, because that's what it felt like as I was listening. I'm like, I don't understand this conversation. This has nothing to do with the discussion about the bylaw. Nobody's taking away anybody's right to bear arms at all. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to pass something in our town so that there is something in place, right? To keep our town safe. So, but I think that communication has to be put out there that when we do go to town meeting, this isn't about coming in front and saying no. This is about, we have to get something in place, because there is nothing right now. And I think that's the piece where there wasn't enough education about this topic.
I agree with you, Sue. Although I do like what Stephanie has put together. I think it does. You know how we are. We're very data driven. We're very, we like to say, oh, that's bad. Go, go get a flu shot, or go get it. People want to know why. I don't see, and I think what Stephanie put together doesn't talk about, like what you were saying at all. And kind of says why, from a public health stance, we feel this way. When we talk about suicide, and we talk about fear, and we talk about, domestic violence, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we know we're talking to each other. This is how I think, I still think it's worthwhile. And whether they take that into consideration or not, I think they're going to do what they're going to do. But I still think we need our voice. So
I previously had written for something, I just saw it, something that said, the American Public Health Association has said, quote, the issue of gun violence is complex and deeply rooted in our culture, which is why we must take a public health approach to ensuring our families and communities are safe, unquote. With the public health and safety of our residents of Westford, we strongly urge the Select Board and Planning Board to adopt the strictest measures possible to limit the number of gun shops in the town of Westford.
I think something as simple as that, it makes way more sense. And I'll tell you, I think the more wordy we are, the more nobody's going to read it. And Stephanie, I so appreciate all the studies that you put together, but I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, I didn't expect anyone read it.
No.
Oh, that's right.
No, but my experience though think about what we went through about the vaccines and everything like that. No matter what we put out there, somebody else Google searched and like had another answer for us. And that's just our reality. And I'm not, so I don't want to get into semantics. Well, your article, I found another article that says this. That's what you just said. That's straightforward I think that's way more powerful than everything else. And that's just, again, that's my opinion, and I appreciate all the hard work behind all the documents. I just think it gets lost in translation with a lot of people, and that people will find a way to argue against it, as opposed to this is our position, plain and simple,
Yeah, I like that statement, Stephanie. I think it sounds great.
So do we just want to send that statement signed by the Board of Health.
Yes.
See them, Ray has her hand raised.
No, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just want to let you know you do have residents that have their hands raised.
Okay,
Just wanted to bring that to attention when you're ready.
okay,
Sorry.
yeah, I can't see that. Okay, so I guess, yeah, I've heard Michelle and Megan, what are your thoughts?
So I just wanted to clarify, you did already send the email
The letter
Yeah.
from myself.
from yourself. Okay. And so I just wanted to make sure that, so that we weren't discussing in addition to that, that letter, because it already went.
That letter already went.
Yeah.
Typos and all.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I think that, I think that the letter was good because I was a little bit disappointed when we did meet that we didn't have like peer-reviewed articles at the time. But I definitely agree that it would be redundant to do to send more. And I think that, yeah, just the whole attitude, I think people seemed at the meetings kind of fed up and done. And so I think, yeah, I mean, I appreciate the work that they've put into it. It seemed like they all genuinely want what's best. And so, yeah, I agree that a simple statement of is good.
I'm on board with that as well.
I didn't realize you already sent it, Stephanie. I thought that's,
Oh, the letter? No, yeah, I sent it so that it would be there in time for their consideration before their meeting.
okay.
So my editor didn't catch the errors, unfortunately.
So then I changed what I was saying. I thought we were talking about whether we were sending that or not. I agree.
Oh.
I agree now. I agree, short and simple. So, at this point, they've heard us. Yep.
Okay. All right, so should we hear from the people who are attending the meeting, or should we vote on this statement first?
It's up to you. I can certainly, you have two hands raised.
Okay, why don't we hear from our two attendees first, and then.
Okay, first one is Catherine Ricketson.
Hi, Catherine, can you state your name and address for the record? And
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Kathy Ricketson, 5 Westford Hills Road. I really appreciate this effort by the Board of Health, and I just quickly want to add that after the joint meeting of the Planning Board, and we so appreciated you being there, we decided to do an analysis of the numbers that the Planning Board had been presenting. So we did an analysis, and we discovered that a discrepancy in the way they came to their number of 3.67 shops rounded up to 4. And going back into the ATF data, we came to the conclusion that that number is too high. It's based on data that wasn't really looked at correctly. So we submitted to the Select Board our data analysis. They have it for their meeting tomorrow night, and I think Stephanie, we sent it to you, I think. So we just wanted the Board of Health to look it over just for your information, because in that analysis, we call ourselves Safe, Sensible Zoning Westford, not calling for a ban, but for the public health concern of availability of guns, especially on issues that we all care about, such as domestic violence, such as suicide. It's very, very reasonable to say that we could have a bylaw that would say 2. For 1.8 rounded up to 2 is really what our statistical analysis. Now, the battle of the statistics is always a little weedy for people, but we think it's really, really important because we wanted to educate people. We're just catching up as residents on this really, really important issue. And we've worked really hard to give an overview of the 30-mile radius around us, what the licenses really mean, what grandfathered could mean, and where we could end up in the future. So we invite you to look at that. It's in the select board packet. And to keep that in mind as your important voice advocates for us as well. So I just wanted to get those comments in, and so appreciate you bringing this up in your meeting tonight and sending a letter.
Thank you
Ca-
very much. And
Kathy,
yeah,
I just have a question.
did that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, how are you? So who's we?
So we are just a group of concerned citizens who became concerned when we found out that Legal Arms was coming before the planning board to get a license for a gun shop, not far from a daycare, near restaurants where kids learn taekwondo, down on 110, after the shock of a year ago, learning about the Littleton Gun Mall, which, took our whole area by surprise. So after he was given the approval, Littleton had to rush a bylaw to their town meeting in February, and that just alerted us, just as residents, to what could happen with our massive commercial zone on 110 when we suddenly realized, come the fall, the Littleton gun purveyors, licensees, whatever you want to call them, selling parts, selling firearms, will need a new home. So this alerted all the communities around Littleton. Acton's been working on a bylaw, Sudbury, Westford. The Boston Globe followed up recently with a story on the town working on these bylaws. And our special town meeting is where we're going to get to vote on a bylaw. So if that's what we need to do, we need to understand that our data has to be correct. And I love talking to public health officials because I am a social worker and I love data-driven public health officials. So if you could take a look at that, because everybody said, accepted Jeff's numbers, made in good faith. But when you look at the actual data, we contend it was counted incorrectly. Please take a look at it, because we're not saying a ban, we're just saying 4 would mean 5, 2 would mean 3, because he's already grandfathered in. And if the language of the bylaw as it currently stands is not changed, and here's where the select board will really be coming in. If it's not changed currently, those that are grandfathered in, and you'll see in our data, it's a little more than we all thought grandfathered in. 10 years down the road, if our sports clubs, which we've all, appreciated and lived peaceably with our sports clubs, were to change their membership or leadership and someday say wanted to have a gun show or something like that, they're grandfathered in. So the select board's their job now to make sure 2 means 2, or it would mean 3, or 4 means 5, and those who are grandfathered in cannot expand above that number. And there was a case that went to the Supreme Court. The town's correctly concerned with being, sued if we pass something that wouldn't pass muster, say. But there was a case in California, in Alameda County, called Texera versus Alameda County. And the Supreme Court kept the decision of the lower court, saying, while you have a right to, bear arms and therefore, buy arms, you don't have a right to have a gun shop in your community. You'd have to show that there's some kind of constraint, and that means a hardship. So if you had to drive 100 miles to fix your gun, that would be a hardship, right? But within our 30-mile radius, we show in our data, there is no hardship. There is way no hardship in getting your gun getting ammunition, getting it fixed, just within a 30-mile radius. We didn't even count Littleton. We didn't count Southern New Hampshire. But we did look at the state. The most simple thing I can say is this. Jeff looked at the towns that had gun shops and these particular licenses when he calculated his average. We looked at the whole state and counted all the towns, and that included many more towns that had 0. So even if you don't count Littleton, when you average the state, it comes out to less than 2. So generously rounding up to 2 more than takes care of any hardship. And in our case, with legal arms grandfathered in, 2 means 3. And
Thank you
that's
very
where we
much.
are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your words. Were there any other questions for her? It is the information they have presented. You can get it in the select board packet is very helpful, I think. Thank you. Ray, did we have, okay, Diane, would you like to speak? State your name and record name. and
Diane
address
Wood,
for the record.
you can hear me, right?
Yes, you're quiet.
Quiet. Diane Wood, 122 Depot. I'll echo many of the things that Kathy has already said. This discussion tonight is very familiar because I just sat in on the League of Women Voters having a very similar discussion about what a statement would include. Because right now we're in between, because we don't really have a final draft statement that you can either bylaw that you can either write a statement and say you agree with it or not. And I think that's the dilemma we're all facing. From a league's perspective, and I'm not the spokesperson, but I'll just share that we're gonna wait till after the planning board meeting to see what evolves after that. So I guess I don't know whether I necessarily agree. Your voices are extremely important, and knowing how important the joint planning board meeting will be next week, I encourage you to, send off whatever letter, whatever you feel comfortable with, that suggests a lower number. It's just very complicated, we all know, because now we're talking, one of the scenarios is talking about expanding the permits to the point of you'd get 1 permit to sell, 1 permit, 1 permit would represent sales and gunsmithing. And that could be on the table also. So we haven't landed yet. I think we all agree. But whatever statement that you can now write and feel comfortable with, because your voices are so important, will be appreciated.
Thank you, Diane. Okay. With that, I agree, we don't have a final draft, but I would love us to, since I sent a letter, it would be great, I think, if the board would like to also at least state something so that it's not just from Stephanie. So would you like me to reread what I had? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So that was, the American Public Health Association has said that, quote, the issue of gun violence is complex and deeply rooted in our culture, which is why we must take a public health approach to ensuring our families and community are safe, unquote. With the public health and safety of the residents of Westford, it should say in mind, we strongly urge the select board and planning board to adopt the strictest measures possible to limit the number of gun shops in the town of Westford.
And instead of gun shops,
Yep,
should we put gun permits?
gun, or they have it
Or-
phrased as firearm businesses.
Use the same language.
Yeah,
I think that's perfect, Stephanie. And again, we can't really comment about numbers at this point because we haven't seen the final proposal.
okay.
I will make the motion that the letter with the change to that wording,
Firearm businesses.
firearm business, be sent on behalf of the Board of Health to the Planning Board and Select Board.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, Michelle,
Aye.
Joanne,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Megan, and Stephanie, aye. We didn't hear you, Megan. Actually, can you?
Oh, sorry, aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I will put that on a piece of paper and send it to Ray tonight, and maybe we can send that over tomorrow then.
Because I think Kathy hit the nail on the head. The thing that is bothering me is the change of use, especially for our sportsmen's clubs to expand and expand. Like they can be exempt, but they have to be held to what they're doing.
Yeah, if they're gonna change, it really needs to be part of the permit that accounts towards the total.
Right. And I remember I brought that up, and I don't know that it was really.
It is mentioned in this letter in one of the, at least one of the scenarios from Jeff, I believe, if I read it correctly.
I think the gun shows are what really bothers me the most. I know the discussion is over, but you know, it's one thing if you have a business type of thing, but when these gun shows where, I don't know, people are coming in from all over and that's enough. I guess. Yeah,
Okay.
they're,
Already
you know,
then.
you see these big gigantic, you know, convention halls of weapons, and I don't know, not what I picture for Westford.
Agree.
Anyway, again, we're not taking anybody's gun away,
No.
and you have your right to do that. It's just, I don't know.
Okay. So then if we are ready to move on from that, our next agenda item was the Board of Health goals discussion for the health department.
Okay, do you see that?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Make it a little bigger. I'm on a smaller screen.
Yeah, don't have a big enough
Let
screen
me
for that.
see.
No, I'm on this tiny little thing because I didn't want to have the problems I had last time. So I'm not using my bigger laptop.
Let me see if I can make it bigger, Joanne.
If not, I'll put on my cheaters.
I think I just lost it. Hold on.
Do you know what?
Mhm.
Full screen.
Okay.
I printed it out, so I have it nice and big.
I know, I thought of that. It's a tree.
I know.
I printed all the other stuff. That's what I was just looking for.
Okay. Do you see it? No, probably not.
Mm-mm.
It's in the background.
All right, well, go back to what you were doing. Don't worry about me.
Okay, so I spoke with Stephanie regarding the Board of Health goals each year.
It's not on the screen at all now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Trying to see if I had it in my documents that I have pulled up everywhere.
I know, it was just there and now it's gone. Here we go. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay. So, other things, so the department, not only is the health director, but we set department goals for our department each year. And that's something that we put in with our budget, and also as a department, not only does all of the non-union employees set goals for the year, but this is something we discuss at our strategic planning meeting as a department each year, what we want to accomplish. So these are some of the items listed here that we've set for the year. And was speaking with Stephanie, I wanted to make sure that you as the board had an opportunity, if you'd like to see anything changed or added, or this is something that's important to me as being on the board, that I would like to see in the community. For instance, last year, one of the goals of not only the Board of Health, but the department was to have a mental health task force, which again turned into the community behavioral and mental health committee. So that is something we just want to make sure of the opportunity for any discussion or, like I said, comments or anything you'd like to see changed or added. I will say in the past, there has been, I think there was 38 goals that the health director set in the past. You know, speaking with some board members and some folks in the department, we felt it, you know, more of an accomplishing goal to limit that.
Are there, let's see.
I have
Are
a
there-
question.
Oh, go ahead, Joanne.
Just on the PFAS stuff, is you
Mhm.
implement the testing program. Didn't you do a information education?
We did. So the health department set that up and invited the water department and the Mass DEP. I invited them to also come and give their perspective on the PFAS program. And that was very successful. It was recorded and put on WestfordCAT,
Okay.
and we have it on our webpage. Yeah. This,
Yep.
it would be, we asked for $20,000 from ARPA funding for this program for residents. And so I am currently in the process of the procurement portion of implementing this program.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And that's
Would we
great.
want to include in with that, you know, anything about, well, I mean, you already have, continuing to provide up to date.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm thinking and speaking and stopping because I don't really. No, I don't know. Does anybody have anything else that they think would be good? I was wondering about, were there other bylaws that we need to look at or regulations that need updating?
So we do have a lineup of updates for regulations that we have here. We do have some items we'd like to see updated both in our well regulations, our septic regulations. We're working on draft pre-demolition regulations. Right now, with Abby out and currently Sam is out on medical leave, it will need to wait until October. But that is certainly something that we can put in as a goal, is to look at updating current and future, bylaws.
We just are currently seeing how important it is to stay on top of bylaws and regulations and make sure they're up to date.
We're pretty good when it comes to things like tobacco, septic, wells, our environmental health bylaws. Things like mercury don't change too much. Our local regulation, I should say, hazardous materials, there's been no changes in the bylaws. It's things we pick up on as we're doing inspections. Oh, I'd love to see that. Oh, we should change this. So
I think I'm surprised that there is nothing about mental health in your goals. And I know there's a committee now, but when I think about health and, your first one is community fitness and wellness, I think you've got to have something about mental health there. I mean, I would love to see more education about mental health to all of the different boards and,
I guess I will say the reason that we didn't, and I'm happy to do so, is because we do have a regional community health and wellness. We do have a town community health and wellness to work every day on substance abuse, alcohol awareness, as well as mental health. Right now we have suicide awareness. Last month was mental health awareness. Domestic violence awareness month is next month. And so,
but even if you
taking place.
added it as a goal, is to support the efforts
Continue.
of the,
Okay.
because the to not have anything about mental health in a health department goal, I think is a mistake. So I
Okay.
appreciate what you're saying, but I think again, is if you say something about support the ongoing
Okay,
efforts of, of these different committees, because you're right, you're doing all that, but you're not really showing that
in the
we know
goal.
it, but it's if it's not here, people might not.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. I think that's an important one.
Okay, I will make sure that's added.
And these aren't in any particular order. Okay.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's appropriate, or within, like the health department's domain or not. But anyways, it reminded me when Joanne, you asked about the PFAS, info session. When I was listening to it, I thought it was excellent, right? And I was intrigued by a question that came up that no one could answer, with where our contaminated water is being dumped, and if it's in a in a community that's you know like a struggling community, or and anyway, so I didn't know if we could if it's appropriate to have as a goal, like, that the health of Westford doesn't hurt the health of other communities, as like just a general, yeah, anyways, I don't know if it's appropriate or not.
Yeah, I like
Sure.
that, Megan.
Just to verify, so did you want, I can certainly find out the answer to your first question from the water department. If there is the discarded water, whether it still contains PFAS or not after it's filtered out, where does that go? If you want the question answered, and then I can certainly add the goal.
It just brought to mind an issue, just that I think that I would love to see Westford being mindful of where, that of not just our health, but how, like, our good health impacts other communities around us. So, but I'm not saying that that's not happening. I was asking for feedback if that was appropriate to. Like,
Yeah,
is
no,
this
I think
where
both of
we-
those seem fine, Megan, both to get an answer on that question and also to add that as
I think that's
a nice goal for
That's a
for
good
our
goal.
town as the town of
don't
West.
hurt another town. I like that. Yeah.
We
So
can strive for that.
it falls along the lines of, sustainability,
Right.
Resilience, that kind of thing, which maybe you could put that in with that goal where it says incorporates social determinants of health, health
Mhm.
equity and sustainability in program planning. And by sustainability meaning, we're not going to create pollution and then dump it in Ohio, kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's great, Joanne. I like that.
Not a problem.
We have a great department. You guys are doing a terrific job.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate the feedback, and that's something we can certainly add. I'm writing them down as you mentioned them, so.
Okay. Do you have it?
Mhm.
Okay. Then I guess we can move on to our next agenda item, which is discussion regarding hemp flour and other hemp derived products. I heard in a news piece on NPR and messaged Ray and said, "Oh dear, I don't know if we need to be addressing this." And she reached out, and there was some discussion that yes, in fact, we probably should be. So you want to share it more eloquently, Ray?
No, so that's pretty much it. Stephanie reached out and that she had heard about hemp flour and that it may or may not be licensed, and how it's regulated and who's doing that, and do we have any in Westford, and can we look at maybe adding some kind of language to either our tobacco regulations or are possibly looking to separate regulations on hemp-derived products and age restrictions, that kind of thing. So I did reach out to all of our contacts at the state regarding hemp flower. I did reach out to our tobacco folks. I reached out to Cheryl Sabara, who is the attorney for the Department of Public Health. And there is much confusion as to the NDAR, which is the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture, oversees CBD, also hemp-derived products. And then there are some products that can only be sold at marijuana licensed establishments that is overseen by the Cannabis Commission. So it can be a little overwhelming when you start looking at, there's about 17 different hemp-derived products. Certainly with tobacco, they're looking at tobacco products, and for CBD, they're not necessarily looking at hemp derived products when they go into retail stores here in Westford. So I did mention to Stephanie that we could have Cheryl Sabara come to a future meeting and maybe talk about these products, what is actually regulated, not regulated. She's really on the pulse of what's happening, you know, because this is a growing situation with CBD and hemp products. They're constantly changing, not saying they're good or bad for people. That's not what I'm saying. But who's overseeing them, regulating, making sure they're not getting in the hands of kids, candies, food products, things like that. So if that's something that you would be interested in, again, Stephanie was hoping for a discussion, so that's why we have it on the agenda for this evening.
Well, yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So for the hemp products, if they contain THC, then it has to go under with the CCC and, you know, only in cannabis stores. So then we're talking, which we don't regulate. So we're only talking about hemp products that don't contain THC.
So the article in the news basically, and Ray, help me, I'm not looking at it at the moment, talked about there were hemp products that were being sold that had distilled chemicals from that were Delta 9 or THCA that cause the same sort of high as marijuana, but they're kind of loophole products. They're not, and so they're finding their way into different markets, unregulated and untested and of concern in places. And so the question was, in our state where marijuana is legal, are they regulated under that or are they not? And if not, did we need to have something to cover them?
Yeah, because you can't sell Delta 9 and you can't sell Delta 8 in Massachusetts.
Okay. And
Right? Right?
Correct. Correct. So you cannot sell Delta 8 or Delta 9 here in Massachusetts. We have found that here in some Westford stores, and we have made sure that they've removed those products. Certainly, I think, you know, it's worth hearing the discussion if you're interested in having Cheryl come. I will say, you know, on record that we don't have the capacity to go into every store here in the community as far as staff goes. But, you know, Cheryl did mention, which Stephanie has seen, that, you know, it might be something to add to our local regulations, our existing tobacco regulations, making age restriction, depending on what kind of hemp products we're talking about. Hemp flower is not regulated as a finished product, but if it does have THC in it, it is required to be licensed by the Cannabis Commission. But it's not to say these products aren't in stores or aren't sold and owners aren't aware, or they are aware, that kind of thing.
So I don't know, are people interested in having Cheryl come and see if we need to add anything?
Sure.
Yeah, there's no harm in that.
Yeah.
Learning.
Okay.
Okay. So I
Thanks,
can
Ray.
reach out. Yeah, I'll reach out and see if she can attend. The next meeting.
we've discussed the new business. And so just our old business remains.
Sure, the Narcan distribution update, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update, from August 11th. We have given out 26 doses of Narcan at the counter to residents that have asked for those kits. We have given out over 14 kits at the latest strategic planning retreat event that took place last week at Kimball Farm that the town put on. Most people are looking for, may or may not mention why, but a lot of folks you mentioned at the strategic planning were looking for it for their kids that are going to college. And whether they were going to be an RA, and they just wanted to make sure they had it, which I thought was great. And we did recently have a resident reach out who was a professor of social work, and he asked for 50 for a student. So those are all separate for the kits that we've already been out, but we do notice that we have people coming each week for it, and so it's going really well. So I just wanted you to be aware. We do provide each person with Narcan training at the counter, give them information that they can take, education that they can take away in case they forgot something. You go to the doctor's office and they tell you everything, and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna get help. So we gave everything to them. We give everything to them at the counter, and go over the kit and give them information if they have any questions. So that's pretty much the update with the kit. So
Great job. Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add under old business? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Sue makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Michelle seconds. All in favor? Stephanie, aye. Joanne,
Aye.
Megan,
Hi.
Sue,
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, I just go in the order that you end up and it changes.
It's the Brady Bunch.
There you
Yes.
go. All right.
Thank
Good
you so
night,
much,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Thank